Welcome to the Elinchrom stand. This is a lighting workshop entitled One Light Photography, and I'm going to do the thing that they don't want me to do, which is tell you that you only really need one light to improve your portrait photography. For the love of God, don't come here going, oh God, I wish my photos were better. What I need is 12 lights. Should we welcome Jacqueline to the stage? Give her a golf clap. Jacqueline's marvellous. She's come dressed in a red jumpsuit today. That's a very bold colour statement that we are. Look, there's more of Neil Shearer's stuff that nearly like I'm suffering enough. What I don't need is a trip to A&E. I've been using Elinchrom lights for 24 years. The reason why I use artificial lighting is because I am a control freak. I couldn't bear being a natural light photographer. The one we're going to be using today here, this is my Elinchrom FIVE light. Super effective, super cool, super big as well. It's got a big chunky handle there on the back. The reason why I love using this one is because it's wireless, it's completely portable, it can fit into your backpack and you can take it with you on location shoots. You could use it with natural light as a little bit of fill-in flash if you wanted to. Fit it to a really, really simple tripod. Now, because I'm using quite a big modifier in this instance, and I'll explain why I'm using a big modifier in a moment, what I will try and do always is I will always try and place my light that way, over one of the legs. The reason why is because this is heavier than the lighting unit behind it, and it could have the propensity to tip. So if you were over here, over this side of the leg, because it's weighted that way, there's nothing really stopping that falling. But if I turn it this way over this leg of the tripod, I can't even push that onto two legs or even one leg. So just for a safety thing, I would always try use my light stand like that over one of the legs. This is a big leap here, Fliss. This is a huge leap. Has anybody seen my YouTube channel? Thank you, the 4 of you who have. If you've seen any of my videos, you'll know that I start off most of my sessions like this. I will bring my light round 45 degrees from my subject. I'm stood here, my background's there, I'm shooting within that background. So I'll move it 45 degrees round so that I've got a nice clear space here, because if my light's here, it's going to be in my way. So I've got a clear space not only to shoot, but also to communicate with my model. Then I'm going to move my light up, sort of 45 degrees there. The Elinchrom logo and wording there on the flash head, if you draw a line through it, and then draw a line through the Elinchrom logo that's on that side of the light here, that's halfway down, and if we continue that line all the way down in a straight line, it's coming just above Jacqueline's eyes. And that's exactly where I want it for my first portrait. Naturally, as humans, you can never see anyone in the natural world lit from underneath. And that's why all horror villains were always lit with that light from up and underneath. So if you ever want to make anyone look villainous, if you were to play Cruella de Vil, then I would look at ways of maybe balancing the light out a bit more so there's more unnatural light coming from underneath. But we want to make Jacqueline look amazing today. I'm going to set my camera up ISO 100, f11, 160th of a second. f11 is a nice F number for me. It means that everything gets in detail. I know for the last 20 years, the fashionable thing to do is to shoot at f2.8 or wider. I just don't do it because I don't like the risk of missing that bit of focus. I'm fairly happy my light's in the right place. The biggest question I get asked by photographers trying to shoot people, new photographers trying to shoot people, is how do I pose my clients? Does anyone here struggle with posing? Thank you for your honesty, sir. Straight up there, and you, good man. Who else was a hand up? I want honest people. Thank you. Yes. Thank you. I can give you a 30-second demo on how to improve your ability to pose other people. Would you like to see that? Good. Okay, a little bit. Tiny bit more enthusiasm in the room, which is good. Okay, so 30-second masterclass incoming in 3, 2, 1. Jasmine, Jacqueline. Cool. So if you just turn to your right, no, sorry, my right. That's it. And then hands on the hips. No, just the one hand actually. Just one. That's it. And then bring it round. No, not the hand. You're just yourself round. That's it. And but drop the knee, the other knee. That's it. And then look over to over to. That's it. And then down a bit, and just sort of bring your hand in your hair, and just that's beautiful. What a comfortable, relaxing experience for everyone. You look amazed by it. You're like, man, where did they get this guy from? So natural. Okay, that's obviously not how to do it. We wouldn't forget someone's name. We try our best to build a rapport with our clients. We try our best to remember their name. When we're coming up to them to approach them, we try our best to get eye contact. I didn't have any eye contact with her for the first 15 seconds. I was looking at the floor, I was looking uncomfortable with myself. We come up towards her and then we're using things like your hand, turn, drop, left, right. If I say left or right to it, what does that mean? Is it my left or is it her left? Do I want her to turn left or look right or turn right, or all those sorts of things? When we're using that dialogue, it doesn't help create natural poses and it doesn't help build rapport. This is how we do it in 30 seconds. Okay, here we go. Jacqueline. Dynamic, strong pose. Good triangle in here. Good space between the hips. Good look off to camera. Eyes back towards me. Beautiful, simple. And we did all that without saying a single word. Because when Jacqueline went to the back of the studio, I used one word. Jacqueline. Eye contact. Big smile. Smile, replicate, smile. Didn't say a word after that. Come towards me. Gave her a point on the floor to stand. The minute she stood on my point, I put my feet wider, she mirrored me. And then I put my hands on my hips, and she mirrored me. Then I dropped my hip to the right, then she mirrored me. Then she turned her head this way, keeping the eye contact. Then I gave her a point on the wall to look at over there. And that was my strong pose. And so much of our communication as photographers comes from mirroring. The reason why we're using a big modifier is twofold, okay? Number one, they're the most expensive modifiers that you can buy, and that's good for them. But mainly number two, if you're struggling with your lighting, big modifiers are great. They give you a massive hit range. They give you a massive fall off. You have way more probability of success of lighting a subject well with a big light than you do with a small light. Big lights, relatively close to the subject, give soft, flattering light. Soft, flattering fall off of light. And that's something that people tend to quite enjoy, I think. They come to you for portraits to look good and to be flattered. And I find that at the beginning of my photography journey, I would use big lights and I would get better results and better client feedback. You're a professional, pick a pose. But if I'd say that was a natural smile, which is really difficult to get from people sometimes, especially when they're being watched. But that's not a natural smile. What we did before was a natural, right, there's a natural smile. Okay, and if I had a camera in my hand, like this man here has got amazing photos at that moment. Come and look, so turn slightly this way. Again, simple mirroring. It's easy as that way. Just really lean into it. Just, oh, that's beautiful. What a simple shot that is. Looking down towards the floor there for me. Yeah, keep that hand position is lovely. 3, 2, 1, go. This camera is nearly out of battery. And we can see here that we've just got a real simple spill of light, okay, across the whole portrait. The majority of now, I'm not put off by that histogram, right? But the reason why I'm not put off with it is because I know the majority of tones in that image are dark. It's a dark background with a dark suit with dark hair. So really only your arms and your skin are the things that are going to lighten things up. And that's a really, really simple way. 45 degrees around, 45 degrees up, 45 degrees down. Now, I like taking dark portraits, I like taking moody portraits. So if I wanted to go even darker and even moodier, you're going to do exactly the same pose. Exactly the same pose again. I'm not changing a thing, except this light is going to come round there. 90 degrees round to a 45 degree angle round and behind. 3, 2, and 1. And we're going to get something that's even darker, even moodier from the previous image. And we haven't changed a thing, except a 90 degree change in the light round to the outside. If I wanted to be super experimental, I could bring my light in here, drop it down just a fraction, but come in nice and close there. The light is now at the same angle as the previous shot, okay? Narrow light source. Why is it called a narrow light source? We don't have time to discuss that. But now what we're lighting with, the majority of this light is coming out here. We've moved it closer to our subject. Because of the inverse square law, we're thinking, blimey, that's going to be overexposed. That's going to be super bright. It hasn't changed a single setting. But we've just feathered the light slightly. So what that means is that really only this edge of the light coming out here is lighting our subject, this little edge. Don't think for a second that this is like a fire hydrant just shooting light out here. because of the silver on the inside and the light bouncing around and the amount of diffusion, light's bouncing all over the place. It's going all the way up here and all the way down here, and then some of it is channeling out here. And that's the beautiful soft light. And by using my 24-105 f4 Canon lens, which I don't need to be paid to endorse because I've been using it for the last 15 years, I can zoom in close from where I am. And from this position here, come even closer to the light here. I can move my body even closer, chin down, just a fraction. That's it, really cool. And now very slowly, just turn your head towards me. Turn, turn, turn. Breathe out slowly through the mouth, little pause. Drop the shoulder in towards me here for me. Chin down, just a fraction there for me. Hold that there. Perfect, now close the eyes. 3, 2, 1, go. Beautiful. And a series of photographs. Look at that soft light coming across. This is proper. Right. Have I got time for a rant? Do you want a rant, or should I keep it positive? Rant. Look at you. Why you want a rant? It's not a rant. You may go onto like a tutorial, or you might pay for a thing where a photographer will tell you that something is Rembrandt lighting, right? And it'll have a really hard triangle under one of the eyes there, and they'll say that is Rembrandt lighting. It isn't. Fliss, did Rembrandt ever light like that? Never. You will never see a Rembrandt portrait with a hard defined triangle under one of the eyes. He certainly lit with a light source, a window light source at an angle, almost as if in a loft conversion, coming down at 45 degrees. If I move my light round to you, I am now lighting the broad side of the face, and she will look amazing. Looking towards me, 3, looking slightly less suspicious. So now, the lit side of the face is the broad side, and the narrow side is the far side. The last thing I want to show you, that is a lot of information for a 30-minute talk. I've pretty much taught you everything I know. What I'm going to do now is I'm just going to show you how we can create something. You're going to turn this way. Again, we're using the mirroring. We're going back to the original pose. Cool. Hold that there. I'm just going to lower this slightly to there. So now her head is framed. That backhand, just lose it behind you. The reason why I'm losing it is because it's super bright. And we're going to be looking over this way there for me. Perfect, beautiful. Hold that there. Chin down, just a fraction there for me. 3, 2, 1, go. And there we have something with an analog effect. It just looks a little bit different and elevates the portrait slightly. If we move you back just a little bit, just a fraction, there. Try that pose again there. Go. Chin down, just a fraction. And that just gives us, with analog effects, something that's a little bit different, and we can play around with it loads. Turn straight on towards me, so you're looking straight towards me. Hand on the hip this side. Turn the head so you're looking over this way. Eyes back, turn your head, eyes back towards me. 3, 2, 1, go. Bring the hand into the hair there for me, do something different. That's cool, hold that there. Perfect, 3. Every time you see a flash, change it slightly. Change, change, change. One more. Beautiful. And then we're just creating a series of pictures that have an analog effect to marry up the colour balance. Ideally, what I'd want to do here, Neil Shearer didn't bring a green bit of card, but I'd want a really bright green bit of card in the background there to work on a complementary colour scheme to make that red jumpsuit jump out. Can we have a gentle golf clap for Jacqueline, please? I'll be back here at 12:30 with a better photographer than me to introduce him, so you can come and watch him shoot. But thank you very much, I really appreciate it. Cheers.